One of these cameras is the NearStream. One of these cameras is the Sony a6000 with a pretty decent lens. Before I show you which is which, we're going to do a bunch of different lighting scenarios so you can tell for yourself which one you like more. My current setup is I have a key light right in front of me. Over here I've got a blue light. Over here I've got a purple light. Let's go ahead and turn off the color lights. So now all I have is a single key light. Let's go ahead and turn that off as well. So you can see now we're in the dark. I've got basically the light coming from my monitors. That's it. So this is a low light environment. Let me go ahead and turn on a side light. So this is just reflecting off the wall. So just a single light in the room. Actually, that looks pretty cool. Let's get the colored lights back on. Okay, so we've got the colored lights back on so you can kind of see what colored lights do. Let's get the key light back into action. Got a key light. Then I have another reflective light. Let's go ahead and turn that on. So got a bunch of lights on now. This is kind of a more bright situation. I got the key light, but most people don't have a setup like this. So let me turn off all of these lights. Let me go ahead and turn on the overhead lights. I've got some LED lights. I'll be right back. And here's the lighting with just the overhead lights on the ceiling. No other lights. So obviously, as I play around with lights, in some instances, one camera might look better than the others. Kind of depends on your lighting situation. Let me go back and kind of go back to my normal setup. So again, I've got the colored lights, the single key light. That's it at this point. Let me work on the intensity of the light. Let me kind of turn it down just a little bit. If you didn't know already, the camera on the left over here is the NearStream, and then the camera on the right over here is the Sony a6000. Kind of some of the more dead giveaways. If you look at the chair back here, it's blurry with the fancier lens. You've got more depth of field with that lens. Another thing you may have noticed is with the lag with my movements. The Sony is plugged directly into HDMI. The NearStream is on USB right now. Now you can plug in HDMI. I will do that later, but unable to do the side by side, I needed to plug it into USB. So this is just kind of a comparison to a mirrorless camera with a nice lens and going through a bunch of different lighting setups so you can kind of see how the camera does with different lighting setups. This comes with a lot of cool features. So it is 4K. You've got 10x optical zoom. Apparently it's got an 8 microphone array with noise cancellation. The camera comes with a remote control and a USB-C cable. The remote uses 2 AAA batteries. I don't know if this really conveys the size of this thing. This is not a small camera. This is beefy. And you can look in the lens there. This is a nice lens. In the back, you've got your audio jack. You've got your power USB-C, then USB-C for data transfer, HDMI, and your RJ45. So if you're going to use HDMI, you just plug in your USB-C here. If you want to use this with a computer, you can just plug in the single USB-C cable here. It doesn't use a lot of power, just 5 volts, 1 amp. It is the model AWVM20. The footage you see right now is coming from this NearStream camera. This camera was sent to me so I could test it out and see how well it works. And you can see obviously here I'm in kind of a desk setup environment. I've got some lights. I've used a lot of cameras like this in the past, and the things I can tell you that it's really good for right off the bat, things like company conference meetings or church meetings or something like that where you have a camera way in the back and the alternative is like some webcam with this wide angle view. The nice thing about this camera is you can zoom way in and you have a great quality image. From using this camera for the few weeks I've had it, I can already tell it's going to be perfect for something like that. What I want to know is how good is it for my desk setup or for someone like me who does YouTube videos or does live streaming or something like that. So obviously that's why I'm showing this camera straight up. This camera can be used via a USB-C cable. It can also be plugged in via HDMI, or you can have an Ethernet cable, and you can even stream this over the internet directly through an RTSP stream. So it is very versatile. Let's switch from this view and move to my desktop view so I can show you the software. So we've got the software open. I'll go ahead and click on this. Let's go to device settings. So now it opens up a preview window like this. By default, you've got the horizontal flip. So this is just like your webcams. I can take this off. I can flip that view. You've got a vertical flip as well. You've got the cam mode. You can enable the audio. You got autofocus. I'm going to leave it like that. Over here, you've got the MAC address. You've got the RTSP stream if you want to see what that stream is. So you can stream this via RTSP. That's really cool. You can also assign it an IP address, or you can let it get an IP address automatically via DHCP. Let's go ahead and go to video settings. So we still have this preview. Saturation, you can bump that up and looks fantastic. Or if you want kind of a black and white view, which actually this doesn't look that bad, you can do that. Brightness, same deal. Can crank up that brightness or have it really dark. Contrast, yeah, most of these you'll just kind of leave on the center on 50. You can change the frequency. I'm going to go ahead and keep that on 60 Hertz. Can also do HDR. Now, it doesn't look that great on here. What you'd want to use HDR for is maybe if you have a company call, you're in a company room, someone's talking with a big glass window behind them, so you got exposure problems, that's when you would want to turn on the HDR. And then you can update the device. So not a whole lot going on here, but you can make the basic edits that you need. The camera also has microphones built into it, so that's why the audio sounds slightly different, because now I'm probably about 3.5 feet away from the camera, so about 3.5 feet away from the microphones. So keep that in mind. I'll let you judge for yourself how you think the audio sounds, but at least when it's this close up, this is what the audio sounds like. One thing to be aware of with this camera is you will need the remote control to do some functions, for example, zooming in and out. Now let's talk about zooming in and out, because if you're filming for an event or something and you are in the back of the room, you will need to zoom in. Let me just kind of show you how far this zooms. So I'm just gonna press the zoom button as I'm talking, and I'm sorry this might make you uncomfortable, but it has a really high zoom level. It's like, when I say it can zoom like crazy, I mean it can zoom like crazy. All right, sorry about that. Let's zoom out. That is nuts. Like the amount of zoomage that this has is just astounding. So if you have a corporate event or something like that and you need to zoom in, this camera is fantastic for that. And you can set presets with the remote. So if I want to go back to this level, I just press level 1. I can zoom out even a bit more. The zoom is pretty slow. I don't know if there's a way to speed that up, but now I can just press the preset, and when you use the preset, it actually goes pretty fast. The remote also has AI framing. I've used that on accident a couple times. Didn't really care for that. That probably works better in an environment where I'm further away. But here are the main things I think you ought to know about this camera. Zoom, as I showed you, fantastic. If you need a camera that can really zoom in on something, this camera does absolutely wonderful job. Image quality, I'll just kind of let you judge for yourself. This is the image quality that you see. There is one thing I want to point out that I've noticed. I especially noticed this when I move this camera for like my top down view. As you can see here, there's a little bit of highlight bleed. Let me kind of show you that where I am right now. Let me turn on these lights. So right now everything looks okay-ish balanced. I'm going to turn on some bright lights to shine right in my face. Okay, so this is really bright, and you can see where the light's hitting me, it's just completely blown out. That's something that's going to happen with a lot of cameras. But let me switch to my mirrorless camera real quick so you can see the difference. So I'm on my mirrorless camera now. It's still a little bit blown out. It's just not as pronounced as it is going back to this NearStream camera. So that's something to be aware of. If you have bright bright lights, you might get some blown out highlights like that. I think the blown out highlights is really the only negative I've seen. Now, when I did the side-by-side comparison with my mirrorless camera, there were a few instances where, depending on my lighting or color situation, it didn't perform as well as the mirrorless for color, but overall it does do a good job. You're not going to get the blurred background or bokeh effect like you would with some lenses, but I don't think that's really the point of this camera. What this camera does really well, aside from zoom, is just its versatility. You can plug it into HDMI, you can plug it into USB-C. So if you just want to plug it directly into a computer and you're good to go, that works great. If you want to hook it up to a Zoom call, you can do that. If you want to use it for a security camera for some reason and you wanted the RTSP stream, you could do that as well. There are a lot of great ways to use this camera. Really nice, I think, especially for large events where you need to zoom in on the speaker.